Good afternoon. Myself Lata, SL in Zoology from MS Educational Academy. Now I am going to take the important answers of the supplementary exam. Upcoming supplementary exam, important answers I am going to explain. The first LAQs we are going to discuss. The LAQs, important LAQs in second year. Mainly the second lesson means second unit, the body fluids and circulation and excretory system. One LAQ will come, and second LAQ will come from the reproduction in human, male and female reproductive systems, and the third will come from the genetics. Here are three LAQs. First, we are going to discuss about the structure of heart, means circulatory system. Now, the circulatory system, two LAQs important are there. First, we are going to discuss about the structure of heart. Human heart structure we are going to discuss. That is the important questions. Last time, the working of heart will come. This time, this may be more chances are there for coming this question, this answer. That's why I'm explaining this one. See. Structure of heart. First, where the heart is located, we are going to discuss. That is present in the mediastinum. The heart is located in the mediastinum. Between the two lungs, the cavity is present. That cavity is called as a mediastinum. In this mediastinum, heart is located. It is a clenched fist size is present, and it is that is slightly left. They are present, and the heart is covered by the membrane that is called as a pericardium. Heart is covered by the membrane that we call as a pericardium. Double layered membrane is present. Pericardium is a double layered membrane. The outer layer is called as a double layered membrane. The outer is called as the fibrous pericardium. Fibrous pericardium. Inner is called as a serous pericardium. Here, the outer is called as a fibrous pericardium. Inner is called as a serous pericardium. Here, between the fibrous pericardium, for example, this one is the heart. The surrounding of the heart, the protective layer is there that we call as a pericardium. The inner is called as a serous pericardium. The outer is called as a fibrous pericardium. Here, the fibrous pericardium. F means fibrous, S is serous pericardium. Between the fibrous pericardium and serous pericardium, between them, the cavity is present. That cavity is called as a pericardial cavity. That cavity is filled by the fluid. That fluid we call it as a pericardial fluid. Pericardial pericardial fluid. What is the function of this pericardial fluid? Means this pericardial fluid protects the heart from the mechanical shocks. Clear? This one is about the pericardium. First, the heart is present in the cavity that is called the mediastinum. It is clenched fist size. It is present. The heart is covered by the protective layer that is called a pericardium. Pericardium is a double layer. This is having the two layers. Outer is called as a fibrous pericardium. Inner is called a serous pericardium. Between the two layers, the cavity is present. That cavity is called as a pericardial cavity. That cavity is filled by the fluid that we call as a pericardial fluid. What it is helpful for the protect the heart from the mechanical shocks. Yeah. Next. Next, heart is made up of with the heart is made up of with the cardiac muscle. Yeah, cardiac muscle. Heart is made up of with cardiac muscle. The heart is having the heart wall is having the three membranes are present. What are they means? Heart wall is containing the three layers are present. The epicardium, outer is called as a epicardium. Middle is called as a myocardium. Inner is called as a endocardium. Heart is covered by the pericardium. Heart is made up of with the cardiac muscle. Heart walls are having the three layers are present. Outer is called as the epicardium. Middle is called as the myocardium and endocardium. From the endocardium, the inner side, the tricuspid and bicuspid valves also formed by the endocardium. Next, the outer structure of the heart. Otherwise, external structure of the heart. The external structure of heart, what it is visible means, external structure of heart is only visible with the four chambers are visible. The two chambers are called two atria and two ventricles. Two atria and two ventricles. Here, the upper chambers is called as the atria, lower chambers is called as the ventricles. Here, for example, the rough diagram I am drawing here, see this one. The upper chambers, two chambers is called as the atria, and the lower chambers are called as the ventricles. The outer looking, which are visible, means the upper atria is visible and the ventricles are visible. And the upper this one, between the atria and ventricle, the outer side coronary sulcus is visible. That we call as a coronary sulcus. coronary sulcus is visible between the atria and ventricles. They are the structure, the groove, the horizontal groove is appear that we call as a coronary sulcus. Next, the down between the two ventricles, one more groove is visible longitudinally that we call it as a the coronary. The arteries are visible that is called as a interventricular septum. Interventricular interventricular septum is visible. This on the septum, the coronary arteries are visible in this one. Outer looking structure is only the arteries and ventricles are visible. Between the arteries and ventricles, the longitude, the horizontal groove is appear that we call as a coronary sulcus, and the down the in the longitudinally one groove is present between the two ventricles that is called as a interventricular septum. On that septum, coronary arteries are visible. This is the, and also the auricular appendix also visible in this one. Earlobe like structures are visible above the atria that we call as a auricular appendix. That we call as a auricular appendix. Auricular appendix. Here, this is about the external structure of heart. Now, next we are going to discuss about the internal structure of heart. In the internal structure of heart, the first is the atria. First chambers, upper chambers, they called as a atria. Next, second is the ventricles. Artecox. Fourth, nodal tissue. Here the first upper chambers is called as the atria. They are the receiving chambers. Here, I'm trying to draw the diagram here. See this one. Here it is the upper chambers. These are called as a atria, or also called as a auricles. This is called as a right atria. This one is the right side. It is present. That's why we call it as a right atria. This side is called as a left atria. Next, down chambers we call it as a ventricles. This one is the left ventricle. Right ventricle. Left ventricle and the right ventricle. And this one is called as a superior vena cava or precaval veins. This is also called as a precaval vein, or also called as a superior vena cava. Down it is there, that we called as a inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava. Next, here this one is the arcs are there. This one is called as a the systemic arc. This one is called as a, or also called as a aorta. Systemic, and otherwise you write it as a aorta. This one is called as a pulmonary arc. Pulmonary artery or pulmonary arc. Here, this one is the internal structure of heart. First, we are going to discuss about the atria. Atria are the upper chambers. Here, atria are the upper chambers. They are the receiving chambers. The blood is received by the atria. That's why these are called as a receiving chambers. Receiving chambers. How we call it as a receiving chambers means the right atria receiving the deoxygenated blood from the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. Clear? Deoxygenated blood. The anterior side, they are collecting the deoxygenated blood by the precaval veins, are also called as a precaval vein is also called as a superior vena cava. Down is called as a inferior vena cava, are also called as a postcaval vein. Clear? They are collecting the deoxygenated blood and given to the atria. Next, the left side, left atria, collecting the oxygenated blood from the two pairs of the pulmonary veins. These are the left pulmonary veins. These are the right pulmonary veins. One pair of the pulmonary veins, left side is present, one pair is present in the right side. These pulmonary veins are collecting the oxygenated blood from the lungs and given to the left atria. Right atria receives the deoxygenated blood from the caval veins, precaval vein and the postcaval vein, are also called as a superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. They are collecting the deoxygenated blood. Left atria collecting the oxygenated blood from the lungs by two pairs of the pulmonary veins, left pulmonary veins and the right pulmonary veins. They are collecting the oxygenated blood. Here, that's why we call it as a receiving chambers. Atria we call as a receiving chambers. Here, next they are receiving the blood. Next, between the two atria, the septum is there. For example, I am drawing the rough diagram here. See this one. Here the two atria is there. Between them the septum is there. Here it is not. See this one here clearly. The septum is there. That septum we called as a interatrial septum. This is called as a between the two atria. The septum is there. That we called as a interatrial interatrial septum. this interatrial septum in the fetal stage. Here this septum is having the small opening is present. The interatrial septum is having the small opening is present in the fetal stage, that we call it as a foramen ovale. That we call as a foramen ovale. After the birth, lungs are functioning. This foramen ovale is closed and form it as a mark after the birth. This opening aperture is inside of the interarterial septum is having the opening that we call as a foramen ovale. After the birth, lungs are functioning. That time, this opening is closed and form it as a scar, that we call it as a fossa ovalis. Fossa ovalis. Here, this one is about the atria. Atria are the receiving chambers. They are receiving the deoxygenated blood and oxygenated blood. That's why we call it as a receiving chamber. They are present upper side. That's why we call it the upper chambers. They are collecting the deoxygenated blood right side by the vena cava, and they collecting the oxygenated blood by the pulmonary veins. Here, this one is about the atria. Next, the one more thing, right atria is the larger than the left atria. Right atria is the larger than left atria. Next, we are coming to the next one, the ventricles. What about the ventricles? Are the lower chambers. They are present lower side. That's why we call it the lower chambers. They are called as a pumping chambers. They pump the blood, oxygenated or deoxygenated blood. That's why we call it as a, these chambers we call as a pumping chambers. Here, next, between the ventricles, two ventricles, between the two ventricles, septum is there, that we call as a interventricular septum. Here, they are dividing the right and left ventricles. That's why we call as a interventricular septum. The left side is the thicker than the right side ventricle. Means the left side is the pumping the oxygenated blood. That's why it is a thicker and comparatively right ventricle. Here. Next, this one is about the ventricles are the pumping chambers. They pump the oxygenated blood out by the aorta. They pump the deoxygenated blood by the pulmonary arc. This one is about the ventricles. And the ventricles are muscular. They are having the inner side. They are having the muscles are there. These muscles, see this one. This one is the muscles are present. These muscle ridges are present. These larger ridges are there. That larger ridges we call as a papillary muscles. The muscle ridges are there. The larger ridges we call as a papillary muscles. The smaller one is there, that we call as a columna corneae. They are called as a columna corneae. Here, next, the ventricles are muscular. They are made up of with the muscles. Muscle ridges are present. Some ridges are smaller. Some ridges are larger. Larger ridges we call as a papillary muscles. Smaller ridges is called as a columna corneae. And one more thing, here the papillary muscles all are connected by the collagen fibers are there, that we call as a cauda tendinae. Here the thread-like structures are present. They are called as a cauda tendinae. This cauda tendinae, they are connected to the tricuspid and the bicuspid valves. What about the tricuspid, bicuspid? I will explain. Next, this one is about the ventricles. Ventricles are muscular. They are having the ridges. The ridges are papillary muscles. Longer ridges we call as a papillary muscles. Smaller ridges is called as a columna corneae. Papillary muscles all are connected by the threads. They are called as a the cauda tendinae. Here, next, between the atria and ventricles, or atria and ventricles, between them, they are having the apertures are there. The holes are there. Means this one is called as a AV apertures. They are called as a, the openings are there. These openings we call it as a AV apertures. Here, Atrioventricular apertures. The openings we call as a between the atria and ventricles. The openings are there. These openings is called as a atrioventricular apertures. These apertures are guarded by the valves. Here, these valves are called as a the first right side is called as a right side valve. We call as a tricuspid valve. Tricuspid. Tricuspid valve. What is the use of this one? Means this valve is mainly useful for they prevent the backward flow from the ventricles to the auricles. Next is the second, the right side. This one is the right side. Tricuspid valve is present. Left side bicuspid valve is present. Bicuspid valve. What is the use of this bicuspid valve? Means that prevents the blood flow back to the left ventricle to left auricle. Next, what about the tricuspid valve? Means tricuspid valve is having the three cusps are there. Cusp-like structure is there. That's why we call it a tricuspid valve. Here the bicuspid valve means only two cusps are present. That's why we call it a bicuspid valve. This bicuspid valve, another name is called as a mitral valve. Clear? Here next is the aortic ox. What about the aortic ox? Means main two blood vessels is called as a aortic ox. What are the aortic ox? Means first one is called as a the pulmonary arc. Or pulmonary artery. Second one is called as a systemic arc, are also called as a aorta. What about the pulmonary arc? Means pulmonary arc collect the deoxygenated blood. Where it is present means this one is the pulmonary arc. See this one is the pulmonary arc that arise from the right ventricle. That arise from the right ventricle, comes out and bifurcate into two. Right side the branches goes to the right lung. Left side goes to the left lung. Like this. The pulmonary arc arises from the right ventricle and comes out and bifurcate into two, and they goes to the respective the lungs. Clear? Next, what about what is the function of the pulmonary arc? Means that pumps the deoxygenated blood from the oxygenation of the blood. Clear? Next one is called as a systemic arc. Systemic arc or aorta. They arise from the left ventricle, and they carries the oxygenated blood out and transported to all parts of the body. Here, systemic arc, they circulate the oxygenated blood to all parts of the body. Arise from the left ventricle, and they comes out and they circulate the blood to all parts of the body. That is about the systemic arc. And the pulmonary arc and the systemic arc, both of them are having the valves are present. These valves are called as the semilunar valves. Here, semilunar valves. Yeah, both of them are pulmonary arc and systemic arc. Both of them are protected by the semi-lunar valves. Clear? Next, one more thing here. The AV apertures are there. These apertures. Next, the pre-caval vein means the superior vena, inferior vena cava and superior vena cava is there. And also here the deoxygenated blood is collected from the heart is by the heart is also one organ. From the heart, the deoxygenated blood is collected by the coronary sinus. Here, this coronary sinus is also opens into the right atria. Means the which one is collecting the deoxygenated blood from the body means precaval vein, postcaval vein, from the heart, coronary sinus. Next, the coronary sinus opens into the right atrium. That place, one valve is present. That valve is called as a Tebesius valve. That valve is called, means that control the blood flow in the inside of the coronary sinus. That is called as which one? Tebesius valve. One more valve is present. The postcaval vein or the inferior vena cava, they opens into the right atrium. That place, one valve is present. That valve is called as a Tebesius valve. Here, this next one is the last one, the nodal tissue. Next, the nodal tissue is having the two specialized cardiac muscles are present. They are called as a SAN and the AVN. Here, where they are present means, for example, this one is the heart, the right atrium, the corner, right atrium. Here, this place, the one specialized muscle will be there. That specialized muscle we call it as a SAN. That is also called as a sinoatrial node. Sinoatrial node means it is the pacemaker, means it then generate the action potential. That's why this is called as a pacemaker of our heart. Means they generate the action potential. It is a specialized cardiac muscle present in the right side of the right atria. One more nodal tissue is present. That is present on the AVN, means atrioventricular septum is in between the atria and ventricle. Septum is called as a anteroventricular septum. That place, one more node is present, specialized tissue is present, that is called as a specialized muscle is present, that we call as the AVN, that we call as the atrioventricular node. Atrioventricular node. Here the action potential is generated by the sinoatrial node, that is taken by the AVN, means here the action potential is generated, that is taken by the AVN. AVN opens into the next, the Purkinje fibers are there. They goes to the bundle of his. First bundle of his is bifurcated into two. That is called as a Purkinje fibers. Like this is the nodal tissue. The internal structure of heart is having the four headings are there. First heading is called as the atria. Second heading is the ventricles. Third heading is the aortic arch. Fourth heading is the nodal tissue. Atria is the, simply I am briefing this one. Atria is the upper chambers and the receiving chambers. They are receiving the deoxygenated blood as well as oxygenated blood. And the right atria is the larger than the left atria. Between the two atria, septum is there, that we call as the interatrial septum. In the fetal stage, in the interatrial septum is having the one opening is present. That opening is in the fetal stage, one opening is present in the interatrial septum, that we call as a foramen ovale. This after the birth, lungs are functioning. That time, this will be closed and form it as a scar, that we call as a fossa ovalis. Here, this is about the atria. Next, the down chambers. Next is the ventricles. Ventricles are the pumping chambers. They pumps the blood. That's why either oxygenated or deoxygenated blood pumps by the ventricles. That's why we call it a pumping chambers. They are present in the lower side. That's why we call it a lower chambers. And ventricles are muscular. They are thick. They are having the thick membrane. They are made up of with the muscles. Next, the left ventricle is the thicker than the right ventricle. The right auricle is larger than the left auricle. Here the left ventricle is thicker than the right ventricle. Why? Means this is the pumping the blood continuously pumping the oxygenated blood. That's why. Next, this is about the ventricles. Ventricles are having the muscles. These muscles we call as the columna corneae here, and the longer muscles, conical muscles are there, that we call as papillary muscles. The papillary muscles are connected by the thread-like structures that we call as cauda tendinae. What is the use of this cauda tendinae? Means they are controlling the tricuspid and bicuspid valves. The tricuspid and bicuspid valves are present in the AV apertures. Here, next one is called as the next is the aortic arcs. These aortic arcs are two are there, the systemic arc and the pulmonary arc. Already we discussed. Next, the nodal tissue. Nodal tissue is having the two specialized tissues are there, SAN and the ABN. Clear? They are. This one is about the structure, internal structure of heart. This one is a very important question to practice the diagram. And these headings are important. Internal structure is important. In this, 4 are there: atria, ventricles, aortic arcs, and nodal tissue. The practice the diagram. If you have any doubts, the comment on the comment box. Thank you.